Hello, this is a 10-minute video introducing TalentClick and our topic, the link between personality and human error in the workplace. We like to start by showing this photo. Now, why is it that some of you look at this and think, wow, I would love to try that, whereas others look at it in horror and all you can think about is disaster and broken bones? Let's look at some other photos. What do these all have in common? They show unsafe situations where somebody decided it was acceptable to act in this manner. Somebody chose to lock that fire extinguisher up. Somebody chose to put an ashtray beside a propane storage tank. And somebody thought it was okay to put a backhoe up on its buckets and seek shade underneath. What we're talking about is human error, about people choosing certain unsafe behaviors. And we think this quote really nicely encapsulates what we're talking about. Most people don't understand that accidents and injuries are preventable. There's an event or chain of events where the person involved probably had an opportunity to act differently, and as a result, there would have been a different outcome. Many of you have seen statistics already on incidents in the workplace and on the road, and what it's attributed to. Largely human error. We think there's a piece of the safety puzzle missing. Now, we're not saying that companies should give up training. We're not saying that proper procedures are not important. Of course those are important, and it's absolutely critical to have the right equipment in place. What we're proposing, and there's lots of research to back this up, which we'll get to later, what we're proposing is that we introduce another piece of the safety formula, and that's what the individual brings to the formula. Now quickly, why would you consider this? Well, there are certain benefits. There's a real return on investment if we look at this more closely. In some of the case studies, which we will show later, the results have been a 40% decrease in rule violations, 52% reduction in lost time injuries, 40% decrease in workers' comp claims, reduction in turnover, less broken equipment, fewer work stoppages, reduced environmental incidents, enhanced corporate image and public perception. Now, what is personality? Research into personality has been around for a long time, but it's only more recently been applied to safety. But personality, as most of us know, is what makes us unique. It's our default settings. It's how we're hardwired, and that drives our behavior. Let's look at this more closely. Now, why is it when some people look at this, they know what to do, and they do it? They come to a complete stop, look both ways, and then proceed. Whereas others come to a rolling stop and proceed right through. It's important to understand that without insight into how individuals contribute to the safety equation, safe training and equipment may have limited success. When workers are confronted by unexpected or unusual circumstances outside of normal training, it is their individual personality, those default settings that we talk about, which determine their actions. Research has revealed there are factors related to safety behaviors. Here they are. People are generally falling on to the spectrum somewhere between being resistant and compliant, irritable versus cheerful. They're either nervous or they're calm. They're restless versus focused, or we're impulsive versus cautious. Let's explore these further. On the resistance scale, low scores overestimate their own competence, and as a result, they may be difficult to train, whereas high scores tend to be willing to listen to advice and take advantage of opportunities to learn. Nervous folks may lose their temper easily. These are the folks that on the road, when they get cut off, tend to take it quite personally and they'll react with road rage. High scorers, on the other hand, tend to remain calm even in stressful situations. These are the ones that workers often want to work with on the job site, the ones that will remain calm even in stressful situations. They're generally good team players. Now with each of these, I'm providing examples below, but I'm not going to spend time talking about them. You're welcome to hit pause and read these more closely. In the restless category, this is about focusing attention over time. This is about distractibility. Low scorers can get easily bored and become inattentive, whereas high scorers tend to stay focused on the task at hand. Many people need variety, they need stimulation, and it's hard for them to focus on things. On the road, for instance, these are the ones that need to be text messaging or fiddling with their iPhone playlist or fiddling with makeup or a hamburger. This is the impulsive dimension. It's all about avoiding unnecessary risks over time. Low scorers are prone to taking unnecessary risks, whereas high scorers tend to evaluate their options before making risky decisions. Here at TalentClick, what we offer is an internet-based program. It's a set of survey questions that takes only about 30 minutes for somebody to complete. You'll see on the right, this is what one of the pages looks like in the report. The report is generated within 1 business day, and it can be emailed to the employer and to the employee himself. Let's look at it a little more closely. We have scores in each of these dimensions, and we offer an aggregate score, what we call the safety quotient. You'll see this individual, for instance, scored in the high-risk category. It doesn't mean, if you're using this for hiring purposes, that you wouldn't hire this person. It just means you need to be a little more careful. Look into things further, check into their references, ask them certain behavioral-based interview questions, and we'll get to those in a minute. Tips for managing a resistant employee, for instance. We include things like this in the report. It's not just giving a score. What we give to the employer and to the employee is tips for managing the employee or managing oneself. These are some examples. Here are some examples for managing a nervous employee. In our report, we also give interview questions, as I mentioned a minute ago, if you're using this for hiring purposes. All these questions and all these tips are specifically geared toward that unique test taker's results. These are not generic questions. Here are some of the clients that are working with this. They're either doing pilot projects or research studies with us. And by the way, we do partner with Simon Fraser University's Center for Workplace Safety with any of the research that we do. Now here's some of the case studies, and you'll see in red the results. Pretty impressive results. With this organization, a manufacturing company, the employees with above average scores were 10% less likely to have had 1 or more accidents over a 3-year period, and 36% less likely to have had 2 or more accidents, compared with those who scored below average on the safety dimensions. Second case study shows several trucking companies, and people with resistant scores were almost 5 times more likely to have had at least 1 preventable accident and more than twice as likely to have had at least 1 driving violation. Those drivers who had high nervous scores were more than twice as likely to have had at least 1 driving violation. This case study involved a regional freight company. You'll see the results: 20% fewer major accidents and 50% fewer accidents for those on the job for 3 years or longer with above average scores. The final case study was with a public transit organization on the West Coast. Drivers with above average safety assessment scores had 31% fewer accidents and 20% fewer rule violations. Drivers who tend to become easily angered were more likely to have had accidents, they found. Identifying risk factors. Which personality traits matter most to safety in a specific role in a specific company? This is about tailoring this assessment to your particular needs in your organization. What we help you do is put this knowledge into action. As I said earlier, there are different applications for this. It could be for hiring, or it could be for existing employees. You can use it to identify safety training needs with those employees, or you'll see at the bottom, you can use it for performance management and coaching. And one final thing that we do is we offer a self-coaching report. This report can be given to the employee himself so that he can use it to monitor his own behaviors. That self-insight and self-understanding can be invaluable. If you'd like to learn more, why not visit our website, which is TalentClick.com. There's lots of information about us and about some of the organizations we've worked with, as well as some testimonials and more case study information. So give us a call today and we'd be happy to tell you more.